This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart, at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, though, is if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us and what we're going to be doing today in a very unique live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast recording time, because this would be a space, as you normally see me sitting next to Austin, for me to introduce episode 167, where we were going to talk about spring football, Final Four NIT stuff. That may still happen officially with Austin, just not tonight. We enter in a unique scenario here where we're going to have things a little bit different tonight, but certainly we are going to still give you some great Auburn experience stuff this evening. So let's jump into it and start off the show how we do before we handle the housekeeping side of things by welcoming you in. So come on in, hang out with us for a little bit, smash the like button, hit the share button if you're watching live. If you're on the replay, you can do similar things as well. We appreciate you doing that for us in this regard. Those are the best ways you can do that. Drop us a line here in the chat. Let us know what you want to think. We'll try our best to take some comments throughout the live stream, maybe more so towards the end. I will probably cover just some points that we want to make sure we hit for the week in case we're not able to do something else with Austin. But we will try to make this more fan and commentary from you focused. And maybe if you guys persuade me enough, if we get enough people that will, I'm going to say this right now, commit to 5 people who say in the chat they will call in, even if it's just to say hello. We will put the call and link up and let you guys, but have to have 5 committed people. And if you lie to me and you don't do it, maybe not offer that again, at least on this particular type of thing. Anyway, we'll jump into all these different things tonight. You guys know how it works in the chat. Let us know where you're watching, all that kind of stuff. Let's jump into it here and talk about a few things. So housekeeping stuff. As you can tell, if you watch the Auburn Experience podcast, live recordings on Sunday, or just catch the replays of these. Normally, Austin is sitting, I guess it would be here. Yeah, technically. Well, I mean, we're shifted up more in this direction, but you get the gist of it all. So Austin tonight is down and out for the count. There is a sickness, I guess, or something rolling through the household, as you can understand, having children, and they are dealing with it this evening. So I joked, and I think I unfortunately jinxed Austin. I think I made a joke with him either last episode or last that it's been a minute since that happened to him, and here we are not too long after that. With me being the well one, finally, I think I have very limited residual stuff left over from my sickness that I had a couple of weeks back, and we actually missed this altogether. But here we are making it through that. Austin's just back in the groove. We're in his rightful place of getting sick by way of his his children. But they just celebrated, I think I've got all this right and permission to share this from Austin, their 3rd birthday, twin boys. So a happy birthday to them. He did wish them a little bit last time, but we're obviously understanding of Austin dealing with the issues this evening that he's having to deal with, and we'll miss him. So what we had on an agenda for potpourri was a few things. I want to start off by acknowledging probably the happiest news in baseball of the week. Josh Donaldson is going to be added to the Wall of Fame, War Eagle Wall, alongside the 4 others that are already there. See if I can get them all out in one sitting. Bo Jackson, Tim Hudson, Greg Olson, Frank Thomas, now Josh Donaldson. The bringer of rain is coming to the War Eagle Wall, the Wall of Fame, very much deserving. We get into these conversations a lot with people about, well, we should retire this number, we should build this statue, put this placard up and stuff. And it's all usually in good intentions and stuff. But I think these things take time, usually after someone has, usually after someone has retired from the sport, things like that. Josh Donaldson has. And you want to let a little bit of time go by just to make sure everything's okay, if you catch my drift. But I think this is well-deserved. I'm so excited to see Josh Donaldson be gracing the wall finally after what I think a lot of people would have wanted to happen much, much, much sooner. Well, in lieu of that, some other Auburn baseball, professional baseball news that was out there. MLB opening day and opening weekend, whatever happened already. And you have got, I think it's now a total of 5, if I have my number correct, people that you could be watching of the Auburn Persuasion in MLB. Yes, it's 5 because there's a brand new 5th one out there. You'll remember Ryan Bliss, Seattle Mariners. You're going to remember Casey Mize, and I'm pulling the other one up because it's a little bit small on the screen. Why is it coming up to the Bailey Horn of the Detroit Tigers? And then you've also got, why is it not Edouard Julien? That's right, Edouard Julien on the Rockies. He used to be with the Toronto Blue Jays. And then brand new to it, Ryan Watson. Ryan Watson is your 64th Auburn baseball person to make it to the Major Leagues official. So that's a really cool thing that happened this week that I know should add a little bit of positivity for you in the, Auburn baseball week so far. We are going to talk a little bit about women's golf as well. If you're not, women's tennis. If you're not aware of how they're doing, you should be. They just are ranked number 2, the highest ever in program history, and they just hit a program record 26 wins. And they beat Alabama this week. Just wanted to add all that in there. Also, this week was Tiger Giving Day. Now that has passed. If you want to still participate in that, you can go to tigergiving.org, and they're still doing what's called the Power Up Fund. It's like a pool they're collecting to go. If you don't know how Tiger Giving Day works, there are projects, quote unquote, or initiatives that they're asking the Auburn family to contribute towards. These can be athletics related. These can be club team related. These can be academics or social events or things like the Raptor Center, something that we often promote here. And that's what I always recommend people give to, just because of my personal ties to that. Those have all closed down, but you can give to the Power Up Fund if you want to do that in some way and contribute toward helping those initiatives, those projects being completed. But it looks like they had a very successful day. I think it was 6,625 total gifts given, which was really cool for that. So that's a lot of the good of the week in what we were going to cover in potpourri, and we might do tomorrow night. Let me just acknowledge a little bit of the bad this week in potpourri, and that is baseball and softball. They let us down a little bit. Now they don't need us to tell them that they let us down or things like that. They understand like that. We don't need to drive it in further for them. And it makes it a little bit worse that Auburn went to Alabama and got swept and run ruled. So acknowledge all of that there. 3 losses. The bats were pretty minimal, as they have been sometimes this season. There's this narrative starting to creep in there that the bats have not been there all season, and that's just categorically false. But in this series, very much the case. And I think sometimes we jump on these narratives without actually doing the research. I'm not saying that I have, but I do wonder, haven't researched Alabama all that much. They are ranked, but I don't wonder if their pitching is actually a little bit more formidable than we were necessarily prepared for. Other than the first game with Alabama, the pitching gave the offense a chance. They just didn't really provide them much of an opportunity outside of that. So not a great week for them, other than dominating South Alabama. That's one thing that we can all get excited about, is that Auburn sports is dominating South Alabama. Softball this week again too, baseball, men's basketball, I think even spring soccer, and maybe not volleyball. One of those two gets a crack at them as well. So Auburn is just tearing up on South Alabama. So I guess if you want to take a little solace from all of this with the losing to Alabama situation, there you go. And then softball got swept by Missouri, and just a little bit of a frustrating situation there too, giving up a few too many runs, sometimes not having enough there. They did have a successful midweek. So it's just not a great weekend on the diamond. And so if we get together tomorrow and we talk about it in a little bit more detail, we were not going to spend a lot of time on that because there's just not much fun stuff to talk about in that one. As always, Auburn Potpourri is just a little catch-all where we try to get you a smattering of everything in there. So keep that in mind. There's not everything that we have time to cover, and we'll try our best to always do that. All right, the rest of it, we were going to talk a lot of detail about some pre and pro football news for Auburn. When I say pre and pro, obviously technically preseason if you even call it off season, I guess, but pre and pro. They had obviously practice this week. I should have called this prac and pro. What mental note, change that for the main show if we do this with Austin tomorrow. Prac and pro, Auburn football. The prac, I guess what I was calling pre. It sounds like it didn't get off to such a great start this week with practices. I think the phrase that Coach Galesh used was a bomb went off and it needed to. I'm assuming the bomb was him, and he let them know and let the leaders know that they needed to get their groups to pick it up. And I mean, for the most part, it sounds like that response was pretty good, but I just found that interesting in the start of week 2 that's needing to take place. Not to say it's a good or a bad thing. I think you could frame that either way, but there's at least an interesting note from that. Coach Galesh has been on a PR tour this week. He has been appearing on podcasts, or at least their episodes are coming out. Next up with Adam Brenneman, Behind the Mask with our very own Takeo Spikes. So you should go check out all of that and hear and listen to what he's saying. This is a good time to get really acquainted with Coach. I would imagine there's going to be a lot of repeat stuff in a lot of these spaces, but you never know. He seems to be a pretty open and honest guy about his thoughts about a few things. So I think you would recommend those. He's also making the PR rounds in terms of going to the different programs and spending some time with them while he's managing his practice schedule. He appeared softball throughout the first pitch and actually did the true, I'm doing it for those on the audio portion of the show, the underhand situation there. Much better than I could have. I'm not going to critique his form there. I'll leave that to the professionals. He did that. He spent some time with men's basketball, or at least they all kind of they talked a little bit together. We saw Stephen Pearl there with him, maybe at practice himself. So a little bit of PR and all that kind of stuff going around. We've got a couple people in the chat even saying that they've done a few of they've already checked out a few of the interviews, and certainly will go check them all out. So you can maybe glean just a little bit of extra something each time you watch those. And always check out our YouTube channel for press conferences and Q&As and interviews that the athletic department provides. And we put those out for you as well. Other quick notes from football. Alumni Day, they hosted this. I don't know if they've done this in the past, to be honest with you. I feel like they probably have, just maybe not as a formal thing. Jarris McIntyre has taken over, I believe, and I think his role just expanded, and we talked about that, but one of his roles is managing alumni relations. And so they will, they did a little bit of an event there to invite them to come back, get to know the team, the program under his leadership. And certainly you can see there's another opportunity to build goodwill in a brand new era for Auburn football. So you can go see some videos and photos from that. And I think the big topic for this week in interviews, in Q&As, all those types of things that I gathered and I kind of put together, and hopefully Austin and I have a chance to talk about, is the shout outs, the leadership shout outs that are coming from a lot of the players, but also Coach Galesh. Some of the names that are popping up are Cody Sigler. I've got questions about, are we looking at the next step up guy, meaning coming from either non-power, but him Division II, I think in his earliest, because he came from, if I'm not mistaken, Arkansas State, which would be obviously non-power, but not as low as Division II to start. He started there. Is he the next Crawford? Is he Ron Crawford, the next Jalen McLeod? Different positions-ish. Those guys were edges or defensive ends. This is, I believe, more of an interior guy, but maybe we're looking at the next up-and-comer who is ready to take that next step. And he's got a lot of leadership qualities, it looks like. Bryce Dees is also getting shout-outs from coach and players, being on the leadership council, things like that. I feel very secure about our linebacker depth, but also leadership even beyond this year, if this is the case with him as being an example like that. And then Pro Day. We put out clips that were provided through the athletic department. You can go see some interviews and things like that, various places. And, all eyes are on Keldrick Falk mainly in the draft. There are others that are going to have Connor Liu, I think, is obviously your other one, too, that's going to get drafted. Maybe a few others that have had some good things like that. But obviously, Pro Day is another little signal that we're getting further into spring. And that's why we wanted to bring that up and talk about that a little bit this week. Okay, so we're rolling through this fast. As a reminder, for those of you that are just checking into this portion of the show, I do this for the live portion of as a reminder. We are doing a little bit of a different show tonight. Austin is out, and so we're trying to get a little bit of our content that we wanted to do in case Austin can't join us tomorrow night for the show. So we're covering at least in smaller bite-sized segments some of the topics. We will take some commentary as appropriate throughout my, I guess you'd call it, monologue, but also we'll take some more at the end and make it more about you. And there's already some great comments and questions that we'll address towards the end in a little bit more detail. So y'all keep those coming. Again, continue to smash the like button, the share button, let people know that we are live. That brings us to take a sip. Only taking a sip because the throat is dry. NIT, baby. Final Four. Only SEC team still playing basketball, might I add. This was the plan all along, as I said it. The Auburn Tigers are victorious versus Nevada, 75-69. Move on to the semifinals, the Final Four of the NIT tournament. Jared Harper was back and saw the whole thing too, so that was a really cool feel. As the number one overall seed in that particular tournament, you would hope that this be the case. Obviously, Auburn had even more hurdles to overcome with Keyshawn Murphy choosing not to continue to play. That wreaking havoc amongst the disappointment of not making the tournament when they did have an argument to make it. I'll accuse somebody there that's probably going to say, no, they didn't. Yeah, they did, but they also had an argument to not make it too. But here we sit. The number one overall seed in this tournament. They continue on. They will play. It is, I keep wanting to say Southern Illinois for some odd reason. And then I go through them all. It's Illinois State. I keep wanting to put a directional school on them. Illinois State, which is like one of the 1,000 of Cardinals in that Midwest to connecting with the, I guess you'd call it the Mason-Dixon line, where Kentucky and Missouri and all them meet. There's so much Cardinals over there, professional and college. It's just ridiculous. You got Louisville, you got St. Louis, you got these guys, you got Ball State. I'm missing some. I don't know why I'm on a tangent about this, but I am. Can we get a little bit? I know I get it. That area, you like your Cardinals. Let's move on. But that's who you'll be taking on, which is a little bit of a surprise, I think, as the 4 seed in that side of the bracket. And then Auburn has a shot to make it to the championship game. Played the days between the Final Four game and the championship game for the NCAA tournament. Pretty cool. A lot of you I know we've had to bring along with your understanding and your appreciation of this opportunity. But I think you're starting to see that, and I'll make a point about that in the last minute. That was a concern for some of you I know personally. One quick note amongst all these celebrating individuals' performances for the season, but also thinking about the future. Sway is hopefully going to be part of the future. You never know in the transfer portal era. I've talked a lot about how I like his game as a big man. He's very versatile. I also think he's got a lot of leadership qualities about him, just when you hear him talk, things like that. Seems like a very likable dude. He broke the freshman record for steals. Let me say that again. Sway, who I think most people would categorize as a big man, a power forward at least, or just a forward, however you want to say it. He has the freshman record in steals. That's really interesting to me. It makes me wonder who he beat out for freshman records. But that should also encourage you about, again, his versatility. And so thinking about the future, we'll talk about that even more after this wraps up. But one more thing here in this segment, just something to keep in mind if you're an Auburn basketball fan and thinking about the future and things to be excited about should Sway continue to want to stay here and be part of the Auburn family, which I have no reason to worry about that right now, but obviously things can change. Final note, and I've kind of bookended. These are probably the tour. We started off with the story of today of Josh Donaldson in baseball, getting his particular honor of being put on the wall. Another big story, I think, for basketball is the addition of the GM, the new GM coming from Louisville. Louisville is a known brand in college basketball, from a good staff. And it doesn't hurt that there is some familiarity there. I'm sure somebody will wrap that up into the whole nepotism talk somehow. Just so lacking so much context. But Brian Cloman will be heading over to Auburn to be their new GM. Now, why is this important? It's important for those of you that felt very concerned. And I'm not saying that those concerns are just stupid, but I think they lacked a little bit at times of trusting in the staff to be able to do what they need to prepare for the future of getting ready for the transfer portal, which doesn't open up until after the tournament, both tournaments. And this is one of those pieces. Positioning yourself to bring in your new GM to get ready for what's going to be probably a very important transfer portal for the first true foundation of the Stephen Pearl era, as he will have had a full kind of year to be able to work with this current staff, this team, and as the head guy, even though he's been working with them for a long time, and then put together his roster. When Brian Cloven's going to be a big part of that, their familiarity with each other is going to be helpful. So that's a big thing, and a big thing that Austin and I hopefully will get a chance to talk about together if he's able to talk with us on our makeup episode this week. So with that in mind, 25 minutes. That's the quickest the Auburn Experience show ever. Again, as a reminder, this is supposed to be episode 167. This is more of a let's get together, fireside chat, catch up conversation taking the place while Austin's out sick. He and I will get back together either this time next week or hopefully for a makeup episode this week to further expound on a few of these things and talk in more detail about them. But we wanted to make sure we did a little bit of that for you should that not happen. Anyway, thank you guys for being here, hanging out with us, and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. As we go, I remind you the Auburn Creed asks you to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. We ask you to do the same. War Eagle.